The unfair cases and horror stories that attach themselves to the deceased will not only leave you puzzled, but grasping for more details as the unfortunate stories unravel of the dearly departed. Now, today's story is some much needed background information, and although it is just background information, it is equally as disturbing as part 2, and you heard me correctly, there will be a part 2. The things that occur in this story will absolutely blow your mind. Now, if you're new here, my name is Jet, and I run this freak show. And if you're new to my channel, brace yourselves, because it's about to get crazy. So sit back, relax, and settle in, because it's story time. Welcome to the morgue. This is Madison Lee. Madison stumbles upon the cutest town, rustic and full of character. Every building authentic and original. All the houses looked vintage and unique. This was the kind of town that everyone knew everyone. The kind of place where no one felt the need to lock their doors at night. Meeting with the only realtor in town, Madison views 3 houses, but it just wasn't what she was looking for. And just when all hope is lost, the realtor remembers a little house on Old Mill Road. Old Mill Road was a long stretch of dirt road leading toward the more country side of town. The left side of the road covered in thick trees and greenery. About halfway down the road, a small house sat on a fairly large plot of land that was covered in greenery and wildlife. And even from a distance, Madison immediately falls in love with the home. After a tour of the home and a walkthrough of the land, Madison is shocked to find out that not only has this home been listed for the last 3 years, it also had multiple price drops way below market value. However, Madison couldn't find the listing. She quickly proposes an offer, which gets accepted only 3 days later. Madison secures a hotel for the next 30 days as she anxiously awaits for the purchasing process to be completed. Madison begins to explore the town deeper, everyone greeting her politely. It was quite obvious she was new in town. However, whenever she explained she had just purchased the little house on Old Mill Road, she noticed their welcoming expression slowly drifting with each word that she spoke. And after the third person to do so, she finally asks why she was getting this reaction. Molly Grimmel, a teacher's assistant, calmly explains that a little further down Old Mill Road was a big blue house owned by a woman named Janet. Janet had been putting offers to purchase the little house, however it kept getting rejected. Molly assures Madison that Janet was harmless. She was just one of those people who wanted to be left alone. And Old Mill Road was the only road that led to Janet's house. Everyone assumed she wanted to purchase the little home to keep the area to herself. With this information, Madison is feeling a little uneasy. Contacting the realtor, she assures Madison that everything was fine, but if she felt it needed, she recommended she head to the library in search of public records, where Madison tries to dig up any information on Old Mill Road and the little house she purchased. The first thing she finds is information regarding Janet's big blue house. The house was originally owned by Janet's great-great-grandmother, who ran a foster care program directly out of the house, which lasted for decades. As the house continued to get passed down through generations, Janet's mother and her much younger boyfriend closed the foster care altogether, keeping the remaining children as their own, one of the children being Janet. As the years passed, it was said that most of the children grew up and left the home in search of their own futures. However, Janet decided to stay. Over time, people stopped seeing Janet's mother in town, and when questioned, Janet explained that she was getting sick and was too tired to make the trip. No one ever further questioned Janet, and no one ever seen Janet's mother ever again. As of now, people just assume she passed away at some point and was buried somewhere on the land. Now at this point it's unclear, but it's rumored that Janet has since created her own foster care program and currently has a few children in the home. But once this information started to circle, Janet puts up a big gate around her property, not even allowing the mailman to enter. And for whatever reason, this was never explored or investigated further. Madison wasn't able to find anything criminal or malicious circling Janet or her ancestors. There was no red flags other than Janet segregating herself. But this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe Janet was just a troubled kid and just wanted to be left alone as an adult. There was no records on how she ended up in foster care. There was no records on her birth parents or where she came from. A few weeks later, the purchase goes through and the realtor meets with Madison, providing her all the documents and the keys to her brand new home. However, when attempting the final walkthrough, they find that someone is in the home, and just as they realize, that someone comes walking out the front door. Janet comes walking out of Madison's newly purchased home. The realtor quickly questions Janet on why she was in there, and Janet explains she wanted to decorate the inside of the home, and she was simply there to gather the proper measurements for this project. The realtor awkwardly explains that Madison had just purchased this home, and they were there to do their final walkthrough. Madison extending her arm to shake Janet's hand, introducing herself. Janet doesn't say a single word, nor does she acknowledge Madison. The three stand awkwardly and quiet for about 30 seconds before Janet turns and walks away, heading up Old Mill Road towards her house. It takes Madison about 3 months to settle in. She collects antique furniture and decorative pieces from town to furnish her new home. She also secures a part-time job at a bakery about 20 minutes away. One morning, Madison is sitting on her front porch drinking coffee when she notices movement coming from the other side of the road in the woods. Squinting her eyes, she's unable to make out what it is, so she decides to get up and walk towards the road. As she gets closer, the object runs deeper into the woods, and in that same moment, a voice creeps up behind her. "I've seen what hides in those woods. I wouldn't get any closer if I were you." Turning quickly, Madison is shocked to find that Janet is speaking to her, standing on the dirt road. And before Madison can respond, Janet says, "Well, neighbor, aren't you going to invite me for coffee?" Madison quickly invites Janet to join her, and the two return to the front porch and begin a conversation. And almost immediately, Janet begins to tell Madison a bunch of different scary stories and urban legends connected to Old Mill Road. But mostly she spoke about the home she resided in, the big blue house. She explained that her ancestors ran a foster care, and most of the kids had some sort of disability, and that they focused on fixing or healing the disability with different methods, some being electric shock therapy and lobotomy and water therapy. Janet went into great detail on how her ancestors would drown some of the kids until they lost consciousness, with the idea that if they were strong enough they would come to, that this would help with the disability and make it go away. The same was thought with electric shock therapy. Kids were electrocuted way past what their body can handle, and if they were strong enough to wake up, they unfortunately were never the same. Janet explained that the burning smell of human flesh would linger in the home for days, and that the burns would scar horribly, tucking her hair behind her ears, revealing several circle-like markings on the side of her face by her temples. And before things get any more graphic, Madison stops the conversation, explaining to Janet that she wasn't interested in this kind of talk. Janet gets up and begins to walk towards the road. She slowly turns, glaring back at Madison, and says, "Well, you won't find this information in public records, so I thought I'd come give it to you myself. So when you're interested in learning more, and you will be interested, I'm right up the road." Madison watched as Janet walked back towards her home, as she got smaller and smaller until she couldn't see her anymore, before heading inside. But there was just one thing that Madison couldn't get off her mind. How did Janet know she was at the library, searching through public records? There was no records of any abuse, crimes, or malicious acts tied to Janet or her ancestors. There was no police reports, or actual evidence that any of the stories were true, so Madison brushes it off as Janet trying to scare her. Later that day, Madison heads off to the bakery to begin her shift, confiding in the other employees about what happened with Janet. They explained that they also never heard these stories, and agreed that Janet was probably just trying to scare her. A few hours go by, and Madison starts making her way home. This is the first time she drives on Old Mill Road after dark. There was no streetlights, and the once beautiful thick woods, now creepy and unsettling, covered the entire left side of the road. Madison can't help but let her eyes wander into the pitch-black scenery, and just then she spots a tiny glimpse of color in the distance. As she gets closer, she's shocked at what she sees. Slightly peeking out of the woods, 5 children dressed in colorful pajamas, blood running from their eyes. The children look to be between the ages of 5 and 9. As Madison quickly pulls over and opens her door, all 5 children now standing at the end of the road, staring at Madison with their mouths wide open, screaming such a horrible scream only to be described as unhuman. Madison quickly slams her door shut and speeds down the road. Arriving home, she quickly heads inside, locking all her doors and windows, and she calls the police. Madison reports what she's seen and describes what she heard. The the police come out about an hour later and do a quick skim of the woods, but they don't find anything. Madison takes them to the exact spot the children stood at the end of the road, convinced they would find blood, as she explained the children had blood running from their eyes. But once again, they don't find anything. The police try their best to comfort Madison and explain that sometimes the darkness in this area plays tricks on you, and it's best not to stare into the woods at night. With no explanation or proof, Madison starts to doubt what she saw, and figured maybe she was just seeing things. Driving home from the bakery the very next night, Madison once again can't help but let her eyes wander into the darkness. However, this time, she doesn't see the children. She safely makes it all the way home, pulling into her driveway and approaching her front door, when all of a sudden, she begins to hear that horrible scream coming from the woods. With her back now towards her house, staring into the woods, the screams becoming louder and more intense. Fearing that whatever it could be, it was getting closer. Madison frantically tries to unlock her front door, but the key isn't working. The screams are only getting closer and closer, and within that same moment, the screams stop. Madison slowly turns back towards the woods, where she spots the 5 children standing at the edge of the road, with the blood running from their eyes, staring and pointing at Madison. So overcome with fear, Madison stands motionless, staring back at the children, when all of a sudden, all 5 children sprint full speed towards Madison, mouths wide open, screaming that horrible scream. Madison quickly sprints towards the back of her house, where she crawls under her back patio, hiding from the children. She spends the entire night under the porch in complete darkness, claiming she could hear the footsteps of the children wandering around her house. Hours later, the sun finally comes up, and Madison comes out from under the porch. Madison doesn't leave her house for several days after this incident. The bakery owner becomes worried and decides to pay Madison a visit. Only when she does, she finds Madison in complete distress and takes her to the nearest hospital. Madison describes the horror that she's endured for the last couple of days, explaining that after both incidences with the children, she now is unable to leave her home because she hears them wandering around her house, and that now, even during the day, she can hear that horrible scream coming from the woods. With no physical injuries, the hospital releases Madison, sending her home with the idea that she was just overstressed and needed to rest. This is when Madison decides it's time to pay Janet a visit and get a little more information about what may have happened to the kids in the story. Arriving home, the owner of the bakery begs Madison to just stay home and rest. Ultimately, she has no choice but to watch as Madison walks up Old Mill Road towards Janet's house. This is the last time anyone would see Madison alive. Several days go by, and the owner of the bakery reports Madison missing twice before authorities finally take the situation seriously. It was reported that Madison was last seen walking towards Janet's house, so authorities first search Madison's house and find it completely empty. They head up the road to Janet's. However, when they get there, they're met with a no trespassing sign and a big metal gate, calling out to Janet, and they get no response, and they're forced to leave with no probable cause. They can't just enter her property. This goes on for weeks, and finally authorities catch a glimpse of something, ultimately allowing them on the property. It's been 3 weeks and 5 days, and Madison is still nowhere to be found. Authorities approach Janet's house every single day, but they're met with the big metal gate and no sign of Janet. However, today was different. In the distance, authorities see a dog playing with something that looked a little too much like a human hand. As they desperately try to get the dog's attention, coercing him towards them, the closer and closer he gets, authorities are able to identify the object as definitely being a human hand. And with this, authorities are able to cut the bolt on the gate and enter the property. Authorities are only a few feet into the property and already have stumbled upon several unmarked graves. It seems the dog had begun to dig them up, the remains appearing really old. Because of the sizing, authorities believe that these grave sites belong to children. Creeping around the house, they find a storm cellar, which was locked. These types of things only locked from the inside, meaning someone was definitely still in there. As they wrap around Janet's house, they begin to knock on the front door, calling out to Janet, but they get no response, so they kick the door down. As they make their way inside, they immediately find Madison lying down on what looks to be an old operating table in the front room of the house. A closer look, and Madison was strapped down, and her head was hooked up to some kind of vintage-looking machine. The machine and Madison were burnt to a crisp. Authorities searched the rest of the house, and nothing really seems out of the ordinary, except the master bedroom upstairs was locked. Dust covered the doorknob. As they pry the door open, dust from inside the room begins to fill the hallway as the door swings open. Lying on the bed, an unknown corpse who had been there for decades. Dust and cobwebs filled the entire room. No one had been in or out of this room for quite some time. The corpse was later identified as Janet's mother, and an autopsy was attempted, the cause of death being unknown. Authorities desperately try to open the storm cellar door, and just as they begin to pry it open, the lock unlatches and the door slowly begins to open. Inside was Janet and 4 children, all trembling, visibly terrified. It was silent for about 10 seconds before the youngest, looking to be about 6 years old, tells authorities, "Shh, hurry and get inside before they see you." Authorities respond, "Before who sees us?" Janet tries to speak but stutters on her words, as the youngest responds to authorities and says, "The children." As the child reaches her hand out to help authorities climb into the cellar, they reach out for the child, pulling her out. This causes mayhem as Janet and the other children begin to scream and fight authorities, desperately trying to pull the child back into the storm cellar. Authorities pull all 4 of the children, along with Janet, out of the storm cellar. They separate them immediately as the investigation continues. Authorities recover the remains of 18 children buried on Janet's property. However, the remains were so old it was impossible for Janet to have been involved. The identity of the children were either unknown or linked to being children from the foster care facility that was once ran out of Janet's house decades ago. Janet's mother's remains were cremated along with the 18 children to whom were found on the property. The 4 children, along with Janet, were taken to the police station where they were questioned, and no matter how long or how many times they were questioned, they all had the exact same story. They explain. Janet and the 4 kids were sitting on the front porch, taking turns throwing a ball to the dog, when Madison began shouting from the metal gate. Janet ordered all of the children to head inside while she walked towards Madison. As Janet approached the gate, she realized that Madison was covered in blood, visibly exhausted, missing her right hand. As she opened the gate and dragged Madison into the house, Madison begins to tell Janet that the children from the woods were after her. The children, with the blood running from their eyes, tried to drag her into the woods by her ankles as she walked up Old Mill Road to get to Janet's house. And as she fought to get away, one of the children wrapped barbed wire around her wrist and proceeded to drag her deeper into the woods. With the children pulling the wire and Madison fighting to get away, her hand was severed from the pressure, allowing her to escape. She then proceeded to run towards Janet's house. Janet explained that in this moment she was desperately trying to stop the bleeding when Madison starts screaming and pushing Janet away, repeatedly saying, "They're here, they're here, the children are here." This causes Janet, along with her kids, to look out the window, and there stood the 5 children, dressed in colorful pajamas, with the blood running from their eyes. The children were now standing in front of Janet's house in broad daylight. This causes the dog to repeatedly bark, and just then one of the children turns and tosses Madison's severed hand to the dog. The dog takes the hand and calmly walks to the side of the house. The children begin to slowly walk up the stairs onto Janet's porch and begin to reach for the front door. Janet quickly grabs her kids and rushes them to the back door, screaming for Madison, but she's unable to move, frozen in fear. Janet slips out the back door and locks herself and her kids in the storm cellar, and that's where they stayed for the next 3 weeks and 5 days, too scared to ever come out. And luckily for them, they did have emergency supplies, including food and water in the storm cellar. Janet, along with every single one of her kids, told the exact same story without fail. It never changed, and it was never altered. Police break the news to Janet that Madison never made it out of the house and that she was deceased. And when they described how they found Madison, Janet's eyes become glossy and wide as she mumbles the words, "electric shock," under her breath. Authorities immediately catch what Janet says, causing her to become an immediate suspect, claiming, how did she know Madison passed from electric shock therapy if she claimed the last she saw Madison was when she ran out of the house, locking herself in the storm cellar? And no matter how hard Janet defended herself, that one sentence changed everything, discrediting her story. Authorities pressed for answers regarding the unmarked graves of the children on Janet's property. which she explained she had no clue they were actually there, explaining that her mother's boyfriend used to tell her scary stories about the awful things that occurred in this house. They also questioned her on what happened to her mother. Janet explains that her mother became extremely sick and frail, and at some point stopped leaving her room altogether, fearing her time was running out. Her boyfriend locked themselves in the room, and they never came back out. It was her mother's final wishes to be buried on the property, but Janet couldn't bring herself to ever open that door. Police interrupt Janet and explain that there was only one body in that room, which was identified as her mother, and that there was no one else in the room or house. Soon after, Janet was convicted and sentenced to life in prison for the unaliving of Madison, and the 4 children in her care, all determined to be missing children, were sent back to their families. To this day, Janet claims she never took any of those children, and when asked how did she end up with them, she claims that she couldn't remember. But even after everything was done and settled, a detective named Bill Carter still had an uneasy feeling about this case, and with nowhere else to turn, he decides to focus on Janet's mother's missing boyfriend. Bill turns to public records in hopes that maybe the boyfriend's name was on the deed to the house at some point, but the worker assures Bill there are no records or information regarding Janet's house. This forces Bill to visit Janet in prison, where she does provide the name of the boyfriend, being Jesse Mendoza. Now this is where the story takes a shocking turn, because that name was all too familiar. 2 days prior, the person assisting Bill in public records was named Jesse Mendoza. Bill returns to public records, only Jesse isn't there, and oddly enough, the realtor was, providing Jesse's address, and when arriving to the location, Jesse's sitting in a rocking chair on the front porch, almost as if he was waiting for Bill to find him. Jesse invites Bill inside, where they sit at a dining room table, covered in not only documents, but decade-long evidence. Janet's mother and her boyfriend Jesse closed their foster care they ran out of their house and begun to conduct different experiments on the children in hopes to reverse their disabilities. Only in most cases, the children passed away. The scary stories that Janet told weren't urban legends at all, but faint memories of her childhood. The 2 housed 19 children, and out of the 19, only Janet survived. This causes Janet's mother to become severely depressed, hardly ever leaving her bed, even confiding in Jesse that they needed to confess to their crimes and turn themselves in. Now because of this, Jesse decides to suffocate Janet's mother with her own pillow, ending her life in her own bed. Jesse locks the bedroom door and climbs out of the window, never returning to the home. The documents laid out on the table showed that the little house that Madison had purchased was actually a part of Janet's property. Her mother and Jesse used to use that house to store the children's deceased bodies while they prepared their grave sites, and Janet used to decorate the inside of the house differently for each child, mimicking their personalities and the things that they liked as they awaited their burial. A bunch of missing children flyers from neighboring towns. The kids in their foster care were never children in need, but actually missing. Janet's mother and Jesse abducted all 19 of the children in their care. Jesse describes the horrible things that they did to Janet, explaining that he has no idea how she's still even alive after all the damage they had caused, and Jesse abandoning the home. Janet was left to fend for herself. And then years later, Jesse abandons 4 kids on her property. The 4 kids in Janet's care later confirmed that Jesse in fact abducted them and abandoned them on Janet's property. The children claimed that they repeatedly explained to Janet about what happened, but with each day that passed, it was almost as that conversation never happened, treating the children as if they were in foster care, assuring them every day that one day they would find their forever family. Now by this time, Jesse is an old, frail man, and in this moment he confesses that he never really stopped conducting these experiments. In fact, he had 5 children he was still experimenting on, only they escaped and ran into the woods some months ago, and he hasn't seen them since. And when asked, well, where exactly did he conduct these experiments? Jesse responded, in the little house on Old Mill Road. Only these children became dangerous and unpredictable, so he locked them in the basement. Only they escaped soon after. Bill asked Jesse for a description of these children, and the only information he was able to provide was that the children were in colorful pajamas. Jesse gives a full confession, admitting to the unaliving of the 18 children along with Janet's mother. He also confesses to hiding and withholding information regarding the missing children and the public records to avoid being caught. He receives life in prison only to pass away in his sleep just a year later. All charges were eventually dropped due to new evidence and lack of evidence against Janet. She was released from prison but sent to a psychiatric facility where it was determined she did suffer from severe brain damage caused by years of torture. She's unable to process new memories and occurrences, her mind foggy and stuck in the past. She has yet to recover mentally from that awful day Madison came running towards her home, and the facility fears she never will. Madison's remains sat in the morgue for about 2 weeks before her family came for her. A service was performed and she was laid to rest. Old Mill Road is completely fenced off, abandoning Janet's home along with the little house that Madison had purchased. Authorities have yet to locate the 5 missing children in the colorful pajamas. However, multiple sightings have been reported. Years have now passed, and some still claim to hear the screams coming from the woods. However, none of the children have ever been located. To this day, it's still unclear on who exactly unalived Madison.
Personally, I think the whole fucking town is in on something. They're over there stirring up some pot of who knows what because everyone's acting a little fucking weird to me. Like when Madison goes to this town, the realtor is like, oh, we only have these 3 houses. And then all of a sudden when Madison is like, I'm not fucking with it. She's like, oh, no. We actually have this other house, this little cute house that has everything you wanted. But it's just like down Old Mill Road. Like it's just like a ways away from the city or the town or whatever, the little cute little town. And she's like, okay, let's check it out. So from a distance, Madison is like, I really like this house. Like, this is everything that I wanted. Like, bitch, you should have started off with this house. But anyway, so she shows her the house. Madison is like, I love it. I want this house. And then the realtor's like, oh, like, coincidentally, it's been available for 3 years. That's so weird because it's not coming up. Like, I can't find the listing. And then the realtor's like, says something stupid probably, and Madison is just like, okay, whatever, like, let's do it. So she puts in an offer and she gets the house, and then so she's just like, well, I'm gonna get a hotel and linger around town, you know, for the process, the payment or whatever to go through, you know, whatever realtors do. So now to pass the time, she's just kind of adventuring the town, seeing what's available, seeing what the fuck is up with the people, just, you know, making sure that she feels comfortable because she did just purchase this home in the middle of fucking nowhere. Immediately people are like greeting her. It's noticeable that she's new in town. And so then when she says like, oh, I just bought this little house on Old Mill Road, everyone's kind of like, oh, on Old Mill Road? And so she's like, not really liking the vibe. So then after a couple people do this to her, she's like, okay, what's up with Old Mill Road? Or what's up with my little house? Like, is it haunted? Like, what's going on? And then some lady, some teacher's assistant, she's like, oh, no. It's just weird that somebody finally got it because Janet, who lives down the road, has been trying to purchase this house and they just keep, you know, denying her. And so we just kind of figured she'd end up with it eventually. Like, you know, just nobody ended up purchasing the house. We kind of figured that she tried to scare them away. And so Madison's like, everyone's giving me kind of like evil eye when I talk about this house. Like, I'm going to go to the library and I'm going to figure this out. Well, she calls the realtor and she's like, bitch, did you just sell me some fucked up ass house? And the realtor's like, no, like everything's fine. Like I swear everything's fine. It's just like, it just like slipped my mind that it was available. But yeah, like go down to the library, public records, like you'll find anything you need. There's nothing, you know, there's nothing to find. And so then Madison is like, well, I am, and I'm on my way. And so Madison goes to the library in search of public records. Now the thing about Janet is she was pretty segregated. She really just wanted to be by herself. And Old Mill Road was the only road that led out to her house. Her house was like further away from the town. It was like a good drive. And so everyone just kind of figured she just wanted to keep that whole part of land, that whole road, that whole section to herself, and that's probably why she wanted the house. So now Madison is at the library. She's looking through public records and she does find a bunch of stuff, only it's mostly about Janet's house and like the history behind it. So her great-great-great-grandmother had a foster care program. She would help kids. It was great, supposedly, whatever. Well, as the house got passed down from generation to generation to generation, the foster care program also got passed down and passed down. And so now when the house gets passed down to Janet's mother, Janet and her boyfriend, much younger boyfriend, by the way, decide to close down the foster care thing forever, like no more. And all the kids that were there, she decides, oh, I'm just going to keep these kids. Now, there was 19 kids, and one of those kids just so happened to be Janet. So Janet has been with them for fucking decades, bitch. Now in these documents that Madison is going through, there's nothing malicious, there's nothing criminal, no police records, no nothing. It's just a decade's worth of family that ran a foster care and when it got to a certain person, they closed it down and they just kept all the kids. It seems like a very like wholesome situation. It seems like a very loving situation. And then, you know, all the kids grew up in this home and eventually left the nest. Now the only one that stayed was Janet. See, now here's where things get a little bit sketchy. Everyone notices that Janet's mother, stepmother, whatever, foster mother, she just disappears. She stops going into town. She stops like grocery shopping, like supply shopping. Nobody just sees her anymore one day. And then so the town sees Janet every so often, probably grocery shopping or something. And they're like, Janet, where's your mom? And she's just like, oh, like she's getting sick. Like, you know, she's getting older. She's just, you know, tired. And so they're like, oh, okay. And then nobody questions further. Everyone's just like, oh, if Janet says that the mom's okay, then the mom's okay. Dead. She was dead that whole time. So it's been so much time that they haven't seen the mom. They just figured, oh, you know, she probably passed away eventually and they probably buried her on the land. Like, you know, this is probably one of those towns where it's just like a small town. Like everyone knows everybody fucks with everybody and knows everybody's business. So it's like probably not unheard of that somebody passed away and they buried them on their land. You know what I mean? I mean, it's weird for me, but I don't live there. Now, this is what I thought was kind of weird, because don't you need like permits and documents and stuff to run a foster care program? You can't just, I'll take this kid and that kid and this kid and you need some help and come on over. You can't just pick up kids and have a foster care. Like, that's not how it works. And so people are in town are like, I think Janet has kids. I think she has her own foster care, you know, thing going on. And nobody checked on it and nobody like further investigated. And that's kind of weird. And then even more fucking suspicious, right? When Janet finds out that people are talking like, oh, I think Janet has her own foster care. Like, love that for her. Like, this is great. She puts up a big ass fence and doesn't even want the mailman to come in. Do you not get mail? Do you not have Amazon? Like, you don't get packages? And this is why I think the whole fucking town is in on something, because Janet's mom is missing. She had a boyfriend. Nobody knows what the fuck happened to him. And then you guys think she has all these kids on her property. She probably started her own foster care. And just nobody cares enough to go and investigate or go ask questions or, hey, where's your permits? And the mailman has all your mail and you don't let him in. Like, nobody cared. That's why I think the whole fucking town. You heard the story. Madison, she can't find anything crazy about Old Mill Road or the house that she purchased or Janet's house a little bit down the road. There's nothing to be worried about. You know what I mean? So the only really red flag is that Janet doesn't want to be friends. She just wants to be left alone, and she's probably going to be pissed that she just bought this house, but it's just like there's nothing to really be worried about. So she's just kind of like, meh. So eventually the purchase goes through and they hit up Madison and they're like, hey, meet me at the house. I got all your documents and I got the keys to your house. She's like, perfect. So they go down Old Mill Road to her little house, her brand new little cute little house. Only when they get there, there's somebody inside. And when they're like, what the fuck? The door opens and Janet comes out. And so Janet's like looking at them, they're looking at her, and everyone's just kind of staring at each other. And then the realtor's like, what the fuck? And so then Janet's like, oh, don't mind me. Like, I'm going to purchase this house one day. I just came in because I was looking to decorate. Like, I just needed measurements. Like, no big deal. And so then they have to break the news and they're like, no, actually, Madison just bought this house. Like, we're doing the final walkthrough. Like, you just broke in, bitch. Like, you're breaking the law. And so then Janet is kind of like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm going to decorate pretty soon. Like, what do you mean you purchased the house? They're like, and so it gets awkward. And they're all just staring at each other. And then Madison's like, hi, like, I'm your new neighbor. And she just kind of like, to Madison. And then she's just like, whatever, bitch. And just like walks back down the road to her house. And so the realtor and Madison are kind of like, that was kind of awkward, but whatever. The realtor leaves. Here's your brand new house. Don't talk to Janet because she's fucking weird. And, you know, congratulations. So now it takes Madison some time to get her stuff together. She's getting furniture, decorative pieces from the town. It's rustic, it's cute. She's having such a good time. And one day she's sitting on her porch, drinking coffee, minding her own business, and across the road, the woods are doing weird shit. And she's like, something weird's going on. And so of course she gets up to investigate, right? Because why wouldn't you? So as she goes and investigates, she hears a voice, and the voice is like, don't fuck around with those woods. And she turns around and it's, who is it? It's Janet. It's like, weird as fuck, because I thought you didn't like me. And so then before she could even say anything to Janet, she's like, so are you gonna invite me for coffee? Like, you're giving mean girl energy. I would have been like, no. Take your ass back to your own house, bitch, because you're being rude. But Madison, she's like, yeah, okay, let's have coffee. So they go back to Madison's porch and they begin a conversation. Now this conversation goes left quickly. Janet's telling her all kinds of creepy shit, all kind of weirdo shit, stories, like haunted shit going on. And then Madison is like, no. I do not like this kind of talk. I don't want to have this conversation. And so Janet's being weird, but she's also being a little cryptic, right? Because she's telling her these stories about her ancestors and what happened in the house that she resides in. Stories are supposed to be from a long time ago, But then as she's telling these stories, she's like showing signs of the story. So if she's like, yeah, they used to burn kids in the house, I remember the smell was horrible, and then puts her hair behind her ears and she has scars from like electric shock therapy. So it's like, you're saying this happened with your ancestors, but you're showing signs that this happened to you. Mind you, Madison couldn't find any of this information in public records, so she's telling her all this creepy shit about her ancestors torturing the foster kids and doing all these malicious things, and Madison's sitting there like, this never happened. No, I'm done with this conversation. Like, this is getting weird. She was getting creeped out and things weren't making sense. She was talking about what her ancestors used to do, but then was showing signs that this actually happened to Janet, and it just wasn't aligning. It wasn't making sense. The math was not mathing. So Janet kind of is like, whatever, bitch. She gets up and she starts walking down the road to her own house. She turns around and she looks at Madison and she's like, listen, bitch, I tried to tell you the truth and you didn't want to hear it. You're not going to find this information in the fucking library and public records. It's not there. I tried to come tell you and you didn't want to hear it. So when you want to hear it, I'm down the road. And so Madison is like, bitch, first of all, how do you know I was already in public records? Like, you're weird as fuck. So then Madison is creeped out. She goes to work and she tells her coworkers, like, listen, Janet from down the street is being a fucking bitch, and she said this, and that. And then the other people are like, I've never heard of any of those stories. Like, none of that ever happened. And then she's like, I know, I was in public records and I didn't find anything on it either. And Janet's a fucking bitch and she's being mean to me. And so they all agree that Janet's a fucking bitch, right? Okay, good. Now, this is Madison's first time having to drive home in the dark on Old Mill Road. Now, this is the type of road, it's a dirt road. There's no street lights, there's no nothing. On this side, on the left side, I don't know if this is the left or right, but on the left side, it's covered in woods, bitch. Like, really pretty woods in the daytime. Very creepy at nighttime. And then on this side, it's like houses and like fields and like nice shit, okay? So she's driving home for the first time in the dark. So it's fucking dark and she can't help but look off into the woods, and she's just like, wow, this is really creepy. And then in the distance she sees a little bit of color and she gets closer and it's motherfucking kids. There's kids in bright colorful pajamas just like kind of peeking through the woods. Like, she can see them but she can't really see them. But so she's like, ah! She pulls off and she's like, what the fuck is that? And she goes to get out of her car, but when she looks back up and gets out of her car, the kids are like right there at the road, blood dripping from their eyes, just looking real creepy and really fucked up. So then when she opens her door to be like, oh my god, let me help you, all of them mouths wide open and they're screaming this fucking scream that spooks the fuck out of her. She jumps back in her car, skirts back home, gets in her house, locks all the doors, locks the windows, calls the police. Now the police come. Police, help. The police come. And they're like, listen, we've looked into the woods. We don't see any kids. Like, they couldn't have gone far. She's like, no. There was blood coming from their eyes. Let me take you over here so you could see. And so she takes them. No blood, bitch. So then Madison is like, oh my god. And so then the police are like, listen, it's not unheard of to be flipped the fuck out, tripped the fuck out. It's so dark. Your mind's playing tricks on you. And she's like, oh my god, you're totally right. You're totally right, first of all. Bitch, that's a fucking weird thing to imagine. Like, no, bitch, you saw what you saw. And so she's like, you know what? I think I'm tripping. Thanks, officers. Have a good night. She goes home, whatever. The fucking next day, goes to work. She takes her happy ass back. I would have not went back to work. Fuck that road. I've seen something like that once. Fuck that. I'm going back to where I came from. Because wherever she came from is a lot better than this, let me tell you. The next day comes. She goes to work. She probably tells everybody what happened. They're all probably telling her you're tripping, or it was Janet fucking around. Whatever. She drives back home. Because why didn't you take a buddy? At this point, I'm scared. Like, why wouldn't you take somebody with you? Whatever. She's driving home. It's dark, bitch. She's looking in the woods. Because I would have ignored those woods. She's looking in the woods, and she's like, okay, I don't see anything. She gets all the way home. She's like, whew, I didn't see anything. Everything's good. No problem. So then she parks her car, she walks up to her door, she's trying to get in her house, and then all of a sudden, she hears the scream from the other night from those fucking kids. She hears the evil scream, and it's a little distance away, so she turns around and she's like looking into the woods, and she's just like, what the fuck? The scream is getting louder, which means they're getting closer, bitch. So she's struggling, trying to open her door. She cannot open her door, and then all of a sudden, the scream stops. So she's like, oh fuck, I'm tripping. So she turns back around and looks towards the woods, and what do you see? The kids are back, the blood dripping from their eyes, and they're staring at her. They're having a motherfucking stare off, and then they start screaming and running towards Madison full speed. And so Madison runs around the house, hides under the porch or the patio or whatever the fuck's going on in her backyard, and the kids are just like lollygagging around her property all night. So she stays under this patio in the back of her house the entire night because she's too scared to come out. She can hear the kids just like fucking around her property. So she waits until the sun comes up. Now the sun comes up and she hurry up and runs inside of her house. Why didn't her door unlock? That's weird. So she runs back into her house and she doesn't come back out. Owner of the bakery, she's like, this is so weird. Like, Madison was so nice, but you know what? She seemed like she was a little freaked out. Let me go check on her because now she's just no call, no showing, bitch. So she goes to Madison's house. Madison, hello? And then whatever happens, she finds Madison completely distraught, completely losing her fucking mind, right? She's like, I need to take her to the hospital. She takes her to the nearest hospital. The hospital is like, listen, she needs to be checked in somewhere else because she has no physical injuries. Everything's fine. She does some labs. Everything's good. And they're like, listen, I think you're just stressed out. Buying a house and moving to a new town, it's stressful. I think you're stressed out. You need to get some rest, drink some fluids. You're probably starving, like eat something. And so then they send her out. And the bakery owner takes Madison back home. Now, when they get there, she's begging Madison, like, just chill the fuck out. Smoke a little some shit, drink a little bit of some shit, and just like chill. You need to just chill. I think you're really tripping. And she's just like, no. You know what? Something is not right here. Somebody's not telling me something. Janet was acting like a fucking weird bitch. I need to go figure out the rest of these stories, or I need to figure out what happened to these kids. Are these ghost kids? Like, I need to figure this out. And I think Janet knows what's up. So then she's like, I'm just gonna go up to Janet's house. And so she walks her dumb ass. Get in your car! She walks her dumb ass to Janet's house. And the bakery owner has no choice but to just watch her walk away. She's just like, whatever, I'm gonna go home. And so now once again, days have gone by. And the bakery owner, she's such a nice lady. Somebody needs to do some nice things for her because she's so nice looking out for Madison, and Madison is technically a stranger. Bakery owner calls the police. It's been several days and she's like, listen, she's missing. She went up to creepy Janet's house and she hasn't been back since. Like, I watched her walk down the street and I've never seen her again. Her house is empty. And she calls and calls. And then finally, after a while, the police are like, okay, let's check this out. They go to Madison's house. House is empty. Been empty this whole motherfucking time. They go to Janet's house. Now Janet has this big gate wrapped around her house, and it's like a big, I imagine like Chainsaw Massacre house, like this big fucking house and like gated and just like just this big property. And so they can't just go inside because it's trespassing. You can't do that. You have to have probable cause. So they're like, Janet, and she just like doesn't give a fuck. And so days and weeks, bitch. It was like 3 weeks and like a couple days and like nothing. And then finally, shit pops off. So one day, authorities go to Janet's house. It's locked, no trespassing. Janet, it's the police. And like, she doesn't give a fuck. But then in the distance, they see a dog. And they're like, oh my God, a cute little dog. And they're like, what's in his mouth? There's something in his mouth. And so they're like, what the fuck is that? And so they're calling the dog to get a little bit closer. And they're like, oh my God, come here. And so then the dog is coming closer and closer. And it's a motherfucking human hand. It's a hand. The dog is playing with the human hand. So this allows authorities onto the property because what the fuck is that? What the fuck is going on here? And so authorities take down the lock, they get inside the gate, and not even a few steps into the gate, like a few feet into the gate, they're coming across like dug up graves, like unmarked graves. They're just like halfway dug up and a little bit pulled out, probably because the dog is starving. Because guess what? You heard the story. Nobody's been on this property either. It's just been segregated and empty because everybody's hiding because these fucking shit kids are over here doing shitty things. And so the dog is starving. So he dug up these graves probably because he's hungry. Like, ooh, call everybody because this is not okay. And so they're searching around the house and it's quiet, it's empty. They find a storm cellar, you know, the ones like bolted into the floors for like fucking tornadoes and shit, right? They find one of those and they're like, try to open it, it's locked, which means somebody's motherfucking in there. Hello? Somebody's in there. So then they're searching the house, they don't find anything. They're like, you know what, let's go inside the house. They go inside the house immediately. Front room, bitch, front and center. They find Madison. Now Madison is strapped down to like this table thing, and she has this machine strapped to her head. It was a electric shock therapy machine, whatever, like a super old one. Wires were probably shot. It was like super old. So they have Madison strapped down to this thing, this other thing strapped to her head, electric shock bullshit, and whoever was shocking her, shit went left. The whole thing caught on fire and it burned both the machine, the table, and Madison to a motherfucking crisp. Now this is in the front room. This is gonna damage the floors. This is gonna damage the walls. The smoke on that bitch, you're not getting your deposit back. Well, Janet owned the house, whatever. They're like, what the fuck? They search the entire house. Everything's kind of like chill. Everything's normal. But then they go upstairs the master bedroom. Now the master bedroom is locked, but not only is it locked, the doorknob itself is covered in dust. So it's like nobody's even attempted to go in this room for quite some time. So they bust it open. And when they pull it open, dust and debris and just shit air that hasn't been messed with in decades comes out of the room, hits them in the face. They're like, what the fuck? And then they go inside. There's cobwebs, like literally has been frozen in time for decades. They're looking around. They're like, this is fucking weird. But then they see a super duper decayed corpse lying on the bed. Probably mummy style. And they're like, what the fuck? And this bitch has been there for a long time. And so later on they find out, oh, it's Janet's mom. Like Janet's mom probably passed away in her bed and she just left her there. Like, okay, this is where we're gonna bury her. Things are not adding up right now. Let's figure out the storm cellar. They're trying to open the storm cellar. They're trying to open it, and it won't open. And then finally, as they're fucking with it, it unlocks. It unlatches. And it slowly opens. I'm sure it's heavy. And inside is Janet and a couple of kids. Now everyone's just silent, staring at each other like, awkward. You guys, I know you guys found that dead body. But so then the youngest kid that was in the storm cellar is like, shh, like hurry, like come inside, just come inside before they see you. And authorities are like, who sees us? And the little kid is like, the kids, like the children, like get in here, you're gonna let them in. And so then authorities are like, what the fuck? And then the kid like reaches to be like, come on, like get in. And then the police like snatch her and pull her out. Like now everyone fucking goes apeshit when this happens because they feel safe in the cellar, and you just pulled the kid out and safety first, bitch. So then all the kids and Janet start freaking out and they're like, no. And then they get into this little tussle. Well, the authorities pull everybody out that bitch and separate them. They're doing their investigation and they're figuring out what the fuck's going on the property. They take the kids and they take Janet to the police station and they question them all separately. They've been kept separately this whole time and they all have the exact same story to the motherfucking T, bitch. It doesn't change, it doesn't alter, it doesn't, well, no, they have the exact same story of what they remember or what happened leading up to locking themselves in the cellar. And so authorities are like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. And so they all just are like, no, this is what happened. We were playing with the fucking dog. Madison starts screaming at the gate. It was really weird. So Janet tells all the kids to go inside, and then Janet goes to help Madison. Madison doesn't have a motherfucking hand. She's bleeding out and screaming, and nobody knows what to do. So then Janet opens the gate, grabs Madison, and drags her inside. And she starts trying to stop the bleeding, and she's trying to see what the fuck happened. And Madison is like, no, the kids from the woods. They try to fuck me up, and they severed my hand. And then in that moment of fucking panic, Madison just shuts the fuck up, and she's like, fuck, the kids are here. And Janet's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So Janet and the kids go to the window, and what do they see? The motherfucking kids with the blood running from their eyes, now standing on their property, and it's broad daylight, bitch. These are not ghosts. And now remember, they have a dog on the property, so the dog is screaming, barking at these strangers with the blood in their eyes. And then one of the kids pulls out the fucking severed hand and throws it to the dog. And so then the dog takes the hand and just like goes on his merry little way. And so that immediately makes Janet think, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Janet gathers her kids, right? And she's like, let's get the fuck out of here. They go to the back door and they're like, Madison! And she's just like frozen in fear. And they're like, fuck Madison. They go and they lock themselves in the cellar. Now that's their story. And they're all telling the exact same story. So now at this point, authorities are like, listen, Madison didn't make it out of the house. Madison was burnt to a crisp. She was laying on this weird fucking table in your front room describing the scene. All of a sudden, her demeanor changes. Her vibes, they change. And she's just like, fuck. And then so she's just like, her eyes get really big. And she's like, electric shock. And then they're like, hey, how did you know it was electric shock therapy? How did you know it was that machine? Like, how did you know all that if you said that the last time you seen her, she was over there flipping her shit, she was too scared to run, and then you ran and you didn't see anything else? How did you know it was electric shock, Janet? And so then Janet's like, no. But remember, Janet's weird. She's fucking weird. Remember when she was telling me scary stories? She was like, oh, my ancestors did this a long time ago. This is what happened in my house. But then she was like, yeah, I remember smelling the burns and then showing the burns. So they talk about the scene, and then she immediately is like, oh my God, electric shock. And they're like, hey, I heard that. And so now her whole story is out the window because they're like, your story doesn't make sense. How did you know she died of electric shock? Like, and it lit on fire. Like, how did you know that? And so then, long story short, bitch, Janet ends up going to jail. She gets sentenced for Madison's murder. Now, police are questioning Janet, and they're like, listen, what's up with all these fucking graves of these kids? And she was like, I didn't know that they were actually there. Like, my mom and her boyfriend would tell me these scary stories, but I didn't know it was real. Like, I didn't know. And she's like, okay, well, what the fuck happened to your mom? Why was she locked in that room? Dead, hella dead, for hella long. And she was like, I don't know. She wouldn't come out of her bed. She wouldn't come out of her room. So one day her boyfriend was like, well, she's gonna die soon. And then he locked themselves in there, and they both probably just died in there. And I was too scared to open it. Like, I just didn't mess with it. But remember, Janet's not all there. Janet, I don't want to say she's a victim in this, but kinda she is, right? She's a victim in this. She's just not there anymore. And the police are like, you're so full of shit. They automatically think she's a liar because of the story of the seller. But then when they told her about what happened to Madison, she knew it was electric shock. So immediately she's a liar. But she's not a liar. It's just, I think her memories are in and out from her childhood. Because I don't really think Janet's a bad person, honestly. I think she's just a little fucked up. Fortunately, Janet goes to jail. She goes to jail for the murder of Madison. They have no evidence really or anywhere else to look. So they're just like, she did it. Telling authorities all the things that they want to know. She's answering their questions, but every time she answers their questions, her answers don't make sense. So, she said her mother and her boyfriend locked themselves in that room and they probably died and she was just too scared to go in there. They're like, no, only your mom's dead body was in there. And then she tells them, well, the kids who were buried on the land, that was just a scary story, that wasn't real. No, bitch, it's real. And then the whole thing with Madison, and she's like, no, I was in the storm cellar. But then you knew what was used to murder her. Like, it's just not looking good for Janet. But it's not Janet's fault. She's just messed up in the head. Like, she just doesn't know what's real and what's not real. And it's not her fault because her mother and her fucking mother's boyfriend fried her fucking brains out. So unfortunately, Janet does get convicted and sentenced to the murder of Madison. But now it just gets so much worse. The kids in her care ended up being kids who were missing. She had like a couple of kids with her that she was like playing foster care with, and they're missing. They're abducted kids. So they reach out to the families, hey, we found your kids, and they give the kids back. So now she looks like a fucking abductor. Now, no matter what, Janet is sticking to her story. They're like, why did you steal these fucking kids? She's like, I didn't steal them. They just showed up. Like, they needed foster care. Like, they're just foster care kids. And they're like, no, bitch, they're abducted. You stole them. She's like, no, I didn't. And then with the whole Madison thing, she's like, I didn't kill Madison. They're like, yes, you did. You killed everybody. Now, regardless of this whole messy situation, the town fucking sucks. The realtor fucking sucks. The guy from Public Record fucking sucks. Everybody sucks. The teacher's assistant who sat there and was like, Janet's a nice lady. Everybody fucking sucks. Everybody sucks in this story. The whole town is in on it. I just know they are. So after everything is settled and done with, the case is over, Janet's in prison, everything's fine. There's a detective and he's just like, no. There's more to this. This is fucking weird. Janet's weird. The realtor's weird. Everybody's weird. And he's like, you know what? There's a lot of unanswered questions to this story and I'm going to dig for them. And immediately he's like, what the fuck happened to the boyfriend? This boyfriend who was there and then all of a sudden wasn't. Let me try to find him. So now listen, bitch. Check this shit out. So then he goes to the library, the same library that Madison went to for the public records to see about the shit going on with Janet in Old Mill Road and her little house. Remember, in the beginning, she went there. She went to public records and there was records. And all the records were just like good things. Like, yeah, Janet segregates herself, but it was good things about that area. And so then this detective, his name is Bill. Bill goes to the same motherfucking place to see the public records. Only when he gets there, the person working there is like, there's no records on anything. Like, sorry, like, you want to read a book? Like, there's no records on Old Mill Road, the little house, Janet's house. Like, there's nothing, sorry. And so then he's like, fuck, really? Like, he was looking for the name of the boyfriend. Maybe it was on the deed of the house at some point or some bills or something. You know what I mean? And he's like, there's nothing? So the worker's like, sorry, there's nothing. So he's like, fuck. So now Bill has no other choice but to go visit Janet in prison. And he wants to see if she can remember the boyfriend's name. And guess what? Oh, she remembers. She remembers all right. And when she tells him the name, Bill's like, what the fuck did you just say? And so she's like, yeah, his name is Jesse. She's like, Jesse what? So she gives the full name and he's like, son of a bitch. So then he hurries back to public records. Why? Because the person working in public records, the person working at this library or whatever, his name is Jesse. Gotcha, bitch. So he goes back and he's like, hey, I'm looking for Jesse. And this is what the fuck I'm talking about with the whole town's involved because Jesse's not there, but guess who's there? The realtor. The realtor is there. So he's like, hey, weird bitch, like, you don't work here, like, what are you doing here? And she's just like, oh, Jesse's like out for the day, like, here's his address. She knew he was gonna come back looking. The realtor and Jesse had a motherfucking conversation. She was like, get out of here. And then she snitched on him. So he gets the address and he goes to the address, and then he's like, he gets there and it's like Jesse's just chilling, and it's almost like he's waiting for him, you know what I mean? Like, he knew he was caught. Hey, Bill. And then he's like, hey, Jesse. And he's like, do you want to come in? Like, we need to have a conversation. Bill's like, conversation, bitch, you're going to jail. Then they go into the house and he's like, come sit down. So then he sits down, and this table just has a whole bunch of shit, all the public records wrapped around Janet, the boyfriend, Janet's mother, the ancestors, the house, the road, the little house, all the fucking shit is all on this table that he hid from the public records office. It's all in his house. Why are you hiding stuff? And then also on this table is just like evidence, bitch. It's just like missing kids flyers, evidence, just like a whole bunch of shit. So then he starts from the beginning. He's like, listen, I just want to, mind you, Jesse's an old man by this point. So he's like, let me tell you something, Bill. Let me tell you what the fuck's going on. I started fucking with Janet's mother. She was running a foster care. We decided, hey, let's do experiments on all these kids to try to help them, to try to better them. They all had something going on with them, some sort of disability. So we did all these tactics to try to get the disability to go away. And unfortunately, it all failed. Like, we drowned them, they drowned. We electrocuted them, they got electrocuted. Like, all these things that we did to them, they died. They all died. However, Janet never died. And he's like, Janet? And he's like, yeah, we had 19 kids and all of them died. You'll find 18, grave sites on the land. We buried them on the land. However, Janet, she lived. Now, they conducted all these things on Janet, poor Janet. And that's what I'm saying. She's not all there. Her brain is scrambled eggs at this point. So he's like, yeah, for some reason, like, Janet survived. And like, the mom felt so guilty because they don't say that Janet's mother did it maliciously. They always say that she tried to help them. So Janet's mother ends up getting super, super depressed, and this is why she stayed in her room, and this is why she never wanted to leave her room, ultimately just locking herself in the room because she was depressed, and she's telling Jesse, like, we need to turn ourselves in. What we did was wrong. Yes, we had good intentions, but what we did was wrong. Jesse doesn't like that idea, so he gets a pillow and suffocates her, and just suffocates her, and she dies in her own bed, in her own room. Now Jesse's like, fuck. So he locks the door, jumps out the window, and never returns to the home. Now this whole time, Janet's still in the home, and she's probably still a little girl, so she had to fend for herself. So now Jesse is telling, this is what happened. And so then Bill's like, motherfucker, I knew something about Janet was off. She's just different. It's because her brain is all fucked up. So he's like, yeah, like, we killed all the kids and we buried them on the land. And he's like going on and on and on. So now all the scary stories and urban legends, they weren't scary stories or urban legends. They were Janet's memories of when she was a child, her childhood memories of being tortured. These stories were real and they happened to her, and she just, for some reason, remembered them as being scary stories. So now the documents, they were laid out on this table. Something catches his eye or whatever, and he's just like, what's that about? And he's like, oh yeah, this is the deed to the little house. Actually, the little house that Madison purchased that was for sale, no, this is part of Janet's property. Like, that little house is on Janet's property. That little house belongs to Janet. See, here's the thing. The boyfriend and Janet's mom, when the kids would pass away, they would store the kids in that house. And then poor Janet, she's just a little girl. She would feel bad. So she would go to the house and like bring the little kids toys or like decorate it really nicely for the kids as they awaited to be buried. So now that makes sense, because remember, Janet was doodling in that house for no reason, and the realtor was like, what the fuck are you doing here? And Janet was like, I'm just here to decorate. That's, her brain is scrambled eggs. She's like, I'm just here to decorate, because that's a core memory for her. That's a memory that she holds on to, is when the kids would die from the torture, she would go to that house and decorate it nicely to like memorialize it for them. Not only that, but there's a bunch of missing children flyers. Now, all the kids that were in their care, all the 19, including Janet, right? They're all missing kids. They're all abducted kids. They didn't just have these kids in the foster care. So who started kidnapping kids? Was it the ancestors and it just got passed down? Because remember, they inherited this property. So did the kids come with it? Or did they, they kidnapped all these fucking kids? playing fucking foster care, experimental doctor in this fucking bitch. So now Jesse goes into great detail on what they did specifically to Janet. He's telling Bill, the detective Bill, I don't even know how she made it. We really fucked her up. Like, I have no idea how she made it alone in the house by herself for all these years. Like, her mother's upstairs dead, and there's dead kids all in her yard, and she's just having a good old day. And so now Jesse's like, listen, I never stopped torturing and abducting kids. Like, he's been reeling in the kids for years prior to this. So he's like, yeah, I ended up with these kids and I couldn't, for whatever reason, he couldn't keep them. So he abandons them on Janet's yard. And so Janet, being the scramble brains that she is, she's like, oh, foster kids, come, foster kids. And these poor kids tell Janet, like, no, we were abducted. And Janet's like, don't worry, you're gonna get adopted one day, little Billy, you're gonna get adopted, don't worry. So she's taking care of these kids as if they're just foster kids in need. And so they go back and they ask these children, like, how did you get on Janet's property? And they tell authorities, like, yeah, no, he put us there. And we told Janet, like, we were abducted, and Janet was just this sweet lady, and she was just like, don't worry, I'm gonna take care of you. And so they're like, fuck, we got Janet on kidnapping, abducting, and she didn't do it. So with everything that Jesse's confessing, murdering Janet's mother, abandoning Janet, fucking her the fuck up, murdering all the kids, he confesses to everything, hiding public records, all the things. He confesses to all the things. But he's such an old man, he goes to jail for it, right? He gets sentenced, he goes to prison for it, but he's so fucking old, he dies a year later. Oh, but hold on, bitch, hold on, because I forgot a piece. This story is long, and I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a part 2. This is a motherfucking story for your ass. So remember, he never stopped experimenting on kids. So at one point, he's like talking about these kids that he's been experimenting on, and then he ditched a couple of them on Janet's land, and then he's like, but there was these other ones that I used to really fuck them up, and they became like super evil and like crazy and like malicious fucking demon children, and they escaped, and I have no idea what happened to them. And so Bill's like, what the fuck do you mean? What do you mean? What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, actually, before Madison bought that house, I would take these kids to that house and I would do these experiments on them with electroshock and drowning them and stuff. And it just got too hectic. I tried to lock them in the basement, but they escaped. And I've never seen them since. And he's like, bitch, Madison was going crazy, telling people she was seeing ghosts in the woods. And so he's like, wait, how many kids was it? And he was like, 5 kids. And he's like, well, can you describe them? What about these kids? And he's like, not really. I didn't really give a fuck other than the torture, but they were in colorful pajamas. And so it's just like, motherfucker, these kids in the woods who were tormenting Madison, they were only locked onto Madison because she was in the house that they were being tormented in. So probably they thought Madison was in on it. But it's just like, these kids are running rapid into the fucking woods. And he's like, yeah, they're fucking demon kids. I really fucked them up. They're running around in the woods somewhere. I don't know. And so then the detective's like, dude, Janet's story was that these fucking kids came out of the woods and took Madison's hand and then murdered her probably, and they were hiding from these kids, and we discredited her and we didn't believe her because what kind of shit is that, right? That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound right. That sounds make-believe. And then fucking Jesse's over here like, oh no, yeah, I did that. Those are my kids. I made them demons, and they're hiding from me in the woods because I tortured them and I scrambled their brains. And they probably only targeted Madison because she ended up in the house that they were fucked up in. Bitch! So now after all of this comes out and Jesse's a piece of shit, they go back and they tell Janet, like, fuck Janet, we are so sorry. And they release her, only they don't just release her, they send her to a psychiatric facility so they can like see if she's okay. Like, everything that's been going on with her, she's all fucked up. And the facility does confirm, like, dude, she has severe brain damage. Like, whatever happened to her really fucked her up. They're saying that she's not really capable of having new memories and holding on to them, that she's kind of stuck in the past of all the trauma that happened to her. And although she's like trying, her brain is just scrambled, you know what I mean? So they're like, listen, we're not gonna just release her to be on her own, we're just gonna keep her. But not only that, the trauma of what happened to her when Madison came to her land and the evil kids that nobody believed her were actually there, that fucking traumatized her beyond belief. And so she's just not all there even more. So the facility is just like, I don't think she's ever gonna be the same as she was before the Madison thing, so we're just gonna keep her. And so poor Janet, like, Janet's been a victim from fucking day one, her entire life. She's just been handed shit after shit after shit after shit, poor thing. And she's just not okay. This whole plot of land, Old Mill Road, the little house, and Janet's house, this all belonged to Janet. Like, Janet's ancestors, whatever, they owned all of it. So they're like, fuck, these demon kids are running around in the woods, chopping people's hands off, fucking microwaving them and shit. Like, what do we do? And they tried to find them, but they couldn't find them. So they ended up blocking off that road, and nobody's allowed over there. Leave it the fuck alone. Let's act like it's not there. However, people report seeing the kids sometimes, and it becomes like a scary story, like an urban legend, right? They see them, but they're not there type shit. And then people report hearing the screams, but they never do find these kids. And it's still unclear on who exactly unalived Madison. Was it the kids? I mean, they had electric shock done to them, so they probably knew what the machine was and how to use it. I definitely don't think it was Janet, and who the fuck else could it have been? But they don't have the kids. They can't question the kids or do anything because the kids are just running around in these fucking pajamas, and the pajamas are probably getting a little too small. Here's what I think, honestly. I think this is one of those towns that they're all in on it because the realtor was acting weird as fuck. The teacher's assistant was like, Janet's cool. No, she wasn't. Jesse worked at the library and did public records. Like, things were just too weird. I think the whole town is in on it, and I think even more stuff is going on there. We just don't know for sure. So I'm gonna let you know right here. This story was long as fuck, as it was, but this was low-key the backstory. There's gonna be a part 2, and shit gets crazy, because these motherfuckers in the woods, oh, honey, they're still there. So until next Sunday, bye guys.